If you're trying to make sense of the absolute whirlwind that is AI right now, you are not alone. So let's cut through all that noise. We're going to break it all down using a really clear, powerful framework from Jason Wei, who's a top researcher from OpenAI and Meta. Let's get into it.
This is the big one, right? It's the question on everyone's mind. How is AI actually going to change our world? Our jobs, our industries, just our day-to-day lives? The problem is, if you ask 10 different people, you get 10 wildly different answers.
On one hand, you've got some deep skepticism out there. You talk to a quant trader, and they might say, sure, ChatGPT is a fun toy, but there's no way it can do my job. But then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you've got AI researchers who are convinced that we're just 2 or 3 years away from AI taking over most human work. It's that huge gap between no way and any day now that makes a solid framework so incredibly useful.
Okay, so let's jump right into the first big idea, and it's a huge one. Intelligence itself is becoming a commodity.
So what on earth does that actually mean? Well, it's pretty simple. The second an AI learns how to do something, the cost and time to get that something done just plummets. It becomes cheap, abundant, almost like a utility. Think electricity or running water. The price for a brilliant answer or a really complex piece of reasoning is literally in a race to the bottom.
And this slide just illustrates the point perfectly. Let's say, for example, you want to find out the population of Busan, South Korea, way back in 1983. Before the internet, that's a trip to the library. We're talking hours of work. In the internet era, maybe a few minutes of searching. With the chatbots we have today, it's seconds. And in this coming agents era, where AIs can just go out and do things for you, that information becomes instant. The friction is just disappearing.
And it's not just about time, it's about cold, hard cash. The actual dollar cost to get a certain level of AI performance is dropping off a cliff year after year. As we get smarter techniques, we don't always need these gigantic, power-hungry models. We can use just the right amount of computing for the job, which makes intelligence cheaper and cheaper for all of us to access.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, this whole commoditization thing shatters old barriers. All of a sudden, really complex fields like coding or analyzing your own personal health data are opened up to way more people. And it totally flips the value of information on its head. When all public knowledge is basically free and instant, it's the private, off-the-grid, who-you-know information that becomes the new gold.
Now for the second idea, and this one is kind of the engine driving AI's progress on very specific tasks. It's all about the power of verification.
This whole thing comes from a classic idea in computer science. Just think about it for a second. Some problems are incredibly hard to solve from scratch, right? But if someone just walks up and gives you the answer, it's super easy to check if they're right. That huge difference, that asymmetry, is the secret to understanding where AI is going to succeed first.
Let's just compare 2 examples to make this crystal clear. A Sudoku puzzle can be brutally difficult to solve, but once it's filled out, checking it is trivial. You just glance at the rows and columns and yep, it's right. Now think about a long, complex essay. An AI model can spit one out in seconds, but for a human to go through and meticulously fact-check every single claim, that is incredibly tedious and slow work. And this leads us to what Jason Wei calls Verifier's Law. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful rule. Our ability to train an AI to solve a task is directly proportional to how easily we can check the answer. The easier it is to verify, the faster AI gets insanely good at it.
What's so fascinating is how AI actually puts this principle into practice. It uses this powerful, almost evolutionary loop. First, it samples, right? It just generates thousands, even millions of potential solutions. Second, it grades them using an automated checker or verifier. Third, it takes the very best of those solutions to inspire the next generation of answers. And finally, it just repeats this cycle over and over, getting a little smarter, a little more efficient every single time.
Okay, finally, let's see how these first 2 ideas, cheap intelligence and the power of verification, combine to create this really uneven landscape of AI capabilities. This is what we call the jagged edge. So you can forget that idea of a fast takeoff, where AI suddenly wakes up one day as a superintelligence that's brilliant at everything. That's a myth. The reality is that AI's progress is super specific to each task. This creates a profile with these incredibly high peaks of amazing ability, right next to these deep, deep valleys of complete incompetence.
So you see these really sharp peaks where AI is already crushing it, things like competitive coding or solving difficult math problems. Why? Because those tasks are digital and they're easy to verify.
But then you have these deep valleys. AI cannot fix your plumbing. It can't give you a good haircut, and it can't speak Klingit, which is a rare language with very little data. Progress in those areas is going to be much, much slower.
And we can actually predict where the next peaks are going to form by asking 3 simple questions. Number 1, is the task digital? Number 2, is there a ton of data available? And number 3, how hard is it for humans to do? Debugging code? Yes, yes, and medium. It checks all the right boxes, so it's being automated right now. But something like chemistry research or hairdressing? Nope, not digital. Nope, not a lot of data. Progress there is just going to be way, way slower.
So let's tie this all together. What does this 3-part framework actually mean for you right now?
Here it is. This is your 3-point framework for thinking about any new AI development you see. First, remember that intelligence is becoming a cheap, instant commodity. Second, remember Verifier's law. Progress happens fastest on tasks where the answer is easy to check. And third, the result of all this is a jagged edge. It's going to completely transform some industries while leaving others pretty much untouched for years to come.
And that really leaves us with one final and kind of personal question to think about. I want you to look at your own career, your own skills. How much of what you do every day is digital, easily verifiable, and rich with data? The answer to that question is going to tell you a whole lot about how close you are to AI's jagged edge.